It's so nice to see all of you young, beautiful right-wingers. I was just talking about all of you on Radio Row just now. It just gives me hope for the future, and I'm just so glad you're so good-looking. And I really first want to congratulate you all for resisting the Chinese-style brainwashing you've been subjected to for the past 20 years. Trying to make you believe things like global warming, or as scientists call it, weather. The multiculti nonsense, Heather has two mommies. Unless Heather's mommies are conjoined twins who share a uterus, it's a biological impossibility. And was trying to convince you that America is the Great Satan, which is so absurd. Everybody knows the Great Satan is the congresswoman from San Francisco. You notice that Obama talked a lot in his State of the Union address. I don't know if any of you saw it. In fact, I think he's probably still giving it. On and on and on. But he talked about, the importance of the public schools, the American educational system. Oh, please, don't you all become school teachers? Yeah, I like the public school system. That's America's rotten education system that elected him. Young people, voters aged 18 through 29, voted for Obama by 66% to 31%. And even taking out the ones who thought they were voting for Kanye West, that is still a lot. It's taken 2 decades of public school brainwashing to turn them into Democrats. At least the teachers don't have them burning books yet. They can, because then they have to teach them what a book is. Young people voted for Obama as a fashion statement. Somebody said to them, oh, come on, everybody's doing it. It's cool. Everybody's jumping on the bridge. And now they're all unemployed. Ha, 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 ha. Even in the middle of the Republican tsunami last November, young people voted for the Democrats by 16 points. And the younger they were, the more likely they were to vote for the Democrats. The age group from 18 to 24 voted for the Democrats by 19 points. So the closer an American is to a college education, the more likely he is to have voted Democrat. On the bright side, a much smaller percentage of young people voted at all in the last election, which either means they're having buyer's remorse or a really awesome video game came out last November. Thanks to America's excellent education system, young Democrats seem to have no idea they're the ones who are going to be paying for Obamacare. They're subliminally unaware of this generational heist, which on one hand makes me say ha ha ha, but on the other hand, it's not just college Democrats who are going to be living with a wrecked healthcare system and there being no money left when we all need healthcare. Young liberals aren't really interested in the generational heist of Obamacare because the only thing they care about is global warming. No imaginary phenomenon frightens them more. They're starting to sound like Hollywood actresses with the beach erosion. Oh, except they don't have the money of the Hollywood actresses, and they never will because they can't get jobs under the Obama economy. There's your American educational system, which is why I am so grateful for homeschooling. College kids are subjected to 4 years of non-stop liberal indoctrination, and I show up to give one speech, and their lips quiver, and they're angry as if I've somehow offended them. It's usually when the pies start to fly. But don't worry, I'm safe. College liberals, they're like girls. I really love this. The liberals are always telling me what great intellectuals they are. We wrote scholars and Bill Clinton, he's up all night in Obama, the White House, the give and take of debate, and we're such great intellectuals. Paul Krugman of the New York Times said liberals like to determine the truth by research, not revelation. Oh, really? Because I don't know how that squares with liberals throwing food every time I talk. Liberal students at my college speeches can't even come up with a question. Any of you who have had the joy, the pleasure, the great fun of watching an Ann Coulter college speech will recognize the phenomenon. They set up the mics, and one by one the liberals go up, stand at the mic, tell me I'm ugly, I'm a Nazi, I'm mean, and then we go sit back down again. It's like an AA meeting, except the first A doesn't stand for alcoholics. Incidentally, when did we cross the Rubicon of males standing up in public and accusing girls of being mean to them? I'm not sure I like it. Only a liberal can claim to be being brave, real badass, for parroting everything the people who are grading say. Yeah, you're a real badass. You probably stay after school. They're cleaning erasers. Teacher, I found another example of a heterosexist norm in Hamlet. Settle down. This generation of young people is so screwed up, they're taking political advice from Lady Gaga, which, at least they're not listening to Howard Dean anymore. I think that represents progress somehow. Most universities are run by incompetent schizophrenics and traitors, or as they like to be called, the faculty. But these institutions can be shaken. Look at what happened in the Soviet Union when Ronald Reagan came along. Look at what happened to the entire mainstream media when Fox News came along. And look at what happened to Dan Rather when bloggers in their pajamas came along. Yeah, President Reagan brought down the entire evil empire, but we brought down Rather. Dan Rather and CBS News represented the left's enduring hatred for Richard Nixon for getting Alger Hiss. They waited 25 years to get Nixon. And we waited 35 years to get Dan Rather. Rest in peace, Richard Nixon, we got Rather. These developments tend to accelerate. Look at all of you. You didn't buy the PC nonsense being spoon-fed to you in public schools and your colleges. Somehow you resisted it. Some of you probably even believe in God, which I believe is still technically legal in the United States of America. You know, if liberals really want to get God out of people's lives, they ought to give him his own show on MSNBC. Never be heard from again. Although, in fairness, God is way too funny to be on MSNBC. They could pair him up with Elliot Spitzer, but Spitzer would demand top billing with God. A belief in God will come in handy during the Obama administration, if only to offer people an alternative being to worship. The younger generation is going to have to rise up and take control. Traditional leadership of the Republican Party is discredited. The Democrats are insane. We need a new generation of young people who will rise up and defend an intellectual movement that won't compromise. I promise you that isn't going to come from college students majoring in women's studies or queer theory. It's going to come from the true rebels, the Christians and the conservatives. Questions, and I do wish we could just import a few liberals just for question and answer for the left. But I want to say thank you. You've been a great audience, and since we're not in a public school, God bless you, and God bless America. I'm glad you asked. ask. I love Sarah Palin. I love what she's doing now. I want her to keep doing it. I think it would be a total step down for her to run for president. I mean, she'd have to know about little, dugu-juti. Who cares? She's out there talking about the big issues. She's rallying people. She shuts down Obamacare by twittering about death panels.
Yeah.
The reason she allows, or she doesn't put it quite this bluntly, but basically that she isn't going to say she's not running for president because Newt Gingrich told her you get people more interested in you, higher speaking fees, more TV appearances, as long as people think you might still be running for president. Well, yeah, if you're Newt, she's Sarah Palin. We're still going to be interested in Sarah Palin. But I think it would be a mistake for her to run. I think it's like asking, should Rush Limbaugh run for president? He has a lot of power. He doesn't need to run for president and start, figuring out what the Fed does. And I'm not taking questions on the Fed. I don't know if you were here last year because Ron Paul lights. That's all they want to know about. I have no opinions on a lot of things. The Fed is not one of them.
If you could go back to college, which one would you go back to and raise hell at?
Cornell was fun. I did not know this when I was applying. I just thought Cornell was a beautiful campus. It's a knockout. It is America's most beautiful college campus. It was just the right distance from home. It was big. It had, sororities and fraternities. That was fun. I did not know, and I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this, Cornell was the only Ivy League school that was founded as a secular institution. Well, I gotta tell you, today it doesn't make a difference, because, Harvard's so Christian. Harvard would be fun. I love speaking at Harvard. I was used to speak a lot at Harvard. They had a fantastic college Republicans group. And what was great about it, and I'm so happy to discover this at Cornell as well, as I wrote my book 2 books back. If Democrats had any brains, they'd be Republicans. At the beginning, I talked about my speeches. And in case you haven't read it, one of the phenomena I've noticed is at these better schools, the high SAT schools, liberals don't throw food. They stand up and they ask you questions and they want to beat you. They think they can outwit you, and that's a lot of fun. It's at the Bush League schools, often, I'm sorry to say, the Jesuit schools, where they are basically Linda Blair and The Exorcist with their heads spinning. And so, I mean, as fun as it is to see liberals losing their minds and throwing food, it's more fun to argue. I mean, how long can you poke the animal in the cage?
What was your favorite of your 7 books now, at this point?
I think it's the next one. The next one is going to knock your socks off. That doesn't just go back 50 years. That goes back 200 years. I have figured out the Rosetta Stone of liberals. It's been before my eyes all of this time. It's been before your eyes. And now all these things I could never understand about liberals, and there weren't that many, they're pretty obvious. But there were a few things. Now I understand it. It's so clear. And you will know how to react to liberals. I've figured them out. I've nailed it. And that's why I haven't been able to stop writing, because it's turning into the Encyclopedia Britannica of liberals, because everything is explained by this single Rosetta Stone. And so now I'm just dumping chapters, and I'll save them for some future book, because I don't want it to be too long. You Twitter generation kids. You have to read every word of an Ann Coulter book. You do not read the first chapter, throw it down, and claim you've read it. This is not a Bill O'Reilly book. No, this is a book that has been researched and written, and you need to know every fact in it, and it will knock your socks off.